If you choose the armor, you'll return to your friend, the Mandalorian. However, you will be giving into attachment to those that you love, and forsaking the way of the Jedi. But if you choose the lightsaber, you will be the first student in my academy, and I will train you to be a great Jedi.
This choice, brought before Grogu by Luke Skywalker, changed the fate of the entire galaxy. Grogu going to rejoin his friend Din Djarin leads to Ben Solo's fall to the dark side, Palpatine's return, Luke Skywalker's death. But if he stayed and trained as a Jedi, would that change? What if Grogu picked Luke in the ways of the Jedi over going back to his friend? How would this affect Din Djarin? Would he and Bo Katan still take back Mandalore? Would Grand Admiral Thrawn still be the heir to the Empire? Also, how would this affect the Jedi Order Luke Skywalker is building on Ossus? Would Grogu be able to stop Ben Solo's fall and the First Order's rise to power? And how would this affect the future of the Star Wars galaxy? What if Grogu stayed with Luke Skywalker in the book of Boba Fett? This story starts on Tatooine. Right after Grogu made his choice to stay with Luke Skywalker and train to become a Jedi, we see Din Djarin's N1 starfighter come out of hyperspace. It lands on the desert planet of Tatooine, where Fennec Shand comes to him to ask for help. Though in this alternate reality, Grogu chooses the path of the Jedi, Din Djarin remains loyal to his friends. His bond with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand is strong, and when called upon, Din cannot turn his back on them. We cut to Boba Fett's palace, where he and his partners are planning to defend their territory from the incoming Pike attack.
This is the Mandalorian, Din Djarin. Thanks to him and Chrysanthemum, we now have enough experienced muscle to act as enforcers. We need foot soldiers.
I might be able to help with that.
And just like before, Din Djarin goes to ask the people of Freetown, formerly known as Mos Pelgo, for help. But just like before, Cobb Vanth promises his friend help, but the legendary bounty hunter Cad Bane is 10 steps ahead, and this big blue meanie comes into town and guns down the Marshal. Now the Battle of Mos Espa goes down in a very similar way. The final showdown between Boba Fett and Cad Bane ends with Boba on top. But Grogu is not there to tame the Rancor. The creature instead gets lured out of the town to stop the destruction. And though the victory is hard won, the Pike Syndicate is driven out and Tatooine is secure, Din Djarin's mind drifts to the child that he lost, and he feels as though he has lost his purpose. We cut to Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple on the forest planet of Ossus. Grogu is meditating, several rocks floating in the air around him. Luke watches from a distance as a smile appears on his face, as he sees Grogu is making great progress. While Din was fighting that battle on Tatooine, Grogu trains with Luke Skywalker. His connection to the Force grows stronger and stronger every day, but his attachment to his friend remains. The small but powerful Force-sensitive child has become a quick learner, but there's a restlessness in him.
You're doing well, Grogu, but you must remember, the Jedi path is more than just power. It's about peace and understanding your place in this galaxy.
Grogu, sensing Luke's wisdom, looks out towards the distant horizon, as if he feels Din Djarin's presence across the galaxy. His training has only just begun, and he may never see his friend again, as Luke told him.
Because, Grogu, a short time for you is a lifetime for someone else.
We cut back to Din Djarin, flying away from Tatooine in his N1 starfighter, now unsure of his future without Grogu around. His future is no longer tied to the child that he swore to protect. He succeeded in his mission to find the Jedi and return him to his people. But he also knows that he lost his way with the Mandalorian creed, and he must go bathe in the living waters of his people's home world, Mandalore. While Din is on his way to Mandalore, we see Grogu and Luke arrive on Coruscant. This is the first time Grogu has been here since Order 66. They land by the Jedi Temple and walk inside. They are here for training, but not just training for Grogu, training for Luke as well, as he is still trying to learn what the Jedi Order before him did wrong, how they allowed Palpatine to rise to power and the Chosen One to fall to the dark side. As they walk inside, Grogu gets a flashback to Order 66, reliving the events of that horrible night, watching his Jedi friends die to the clones that once protected them. Although Luke has a lot to teach Grogu, there's some things that Grogu can teach Luke, as he saw firsthand the fall of the Jedi Order. We cut back to Din Djarin as he arrives on Kalevala, a planet in the Mandalore system, but it's not Mandalore. He is there to go get help from Bo Katan. But this time, things are different. Din Djarin is not here to ask for help. He's here to beg. Now that Grogu is no longer with him, his purpose now is to bring his people together. So Bo Katan reluctantly agrees to help Din Djarin get back to Mandalore, helping him bathe in the living waters in the mines under the city. And just like before, when they get back to Kalevala, they get attacked by the remnant of the Empire. Confused as to where this fleet came from, they know there's only one option. It must have come from a planet in the Mandalore system. Mandalore itself, their home planet, has an Imperial base on it. So while Grogu and Luke train at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and Din and Bo Katan are getting the Mandalorians back together to reclaim their homeworld of Mandalore, elsewhere in the galaxy, Sabine Wren and Ahsoka Tano are trying to stop Grand Admiral Thrawn from returning while also saving their old friend, Ezra Bridger. Just like in our normal timeline, Sabine goes off with Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati, and Morgan Elsbeth as a prisoner to this new galaxy, the planet of Peridea. And after going into the world between worlds and having one last lesson with her master, Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano and Huge Wang hop in the mouth of a Purgle, and after finding their friend, fighting some zombie stormtroopers, and becoming friends with the Ninja Turtles, Ahsoka and Sabine become stranded on Peridea, as Thrawn and his Night Sisters, and Ezra Bridger, get back to the main Star Wars galaxy we know and love. Thrawn arrives on Dathomir with thousands of these crates filled with Night Sisters, an army of witches to go along with the remnant of the Empire, as Thrawn quickly becomes the leader that the remnant of the Empire has been waiting for. Starting in the Outer Rim, Thrawn's reign begins to spread like wildfire. And as word of Thrawn's return spreads across the galaxy, Din Djarin and Bo Katan, who have now reunited the Mandalorian clans, are retaking Mandalore, taking their homeworld back from Moff Gideon. But now, unlike before, Din Djarin does not go back to Navarro to help the New Republic. Instead, he stays on Mandalore with Bo Katan and the Armorer to help rebuild the planet with his people. And that means Din Djarin is not there when Navarro gets taken down by Grand Admiral Thrawn, as his friend Greef Karga is not able to stop him. And as the months and months go by, Mandalore begins to flourish. Cities are now being rebuilt from the ground up, but little do they know the Outer Rim around them is being destroyed, with Thrawn's reign growing larger and larger every day. Meanwhile, Luke and Grogu are off in the unknown regions. At this point in the timeline, Luke is off in the galaxy, with Grogu this time, looking for Sith and Jedi artifacts. Grogu, now more powerful than ever with the Force, helps Luke on his missions. But the time has come to go see his sister, as her son is now old enough to join Luke and Grogu, as Luke's Jedi Temple is now going to begin to be filled. In this reality, Ben Solo is not his first apprentice. Grogu is. And at this point, Luke has learned a lot more about how to be a master. However, evil forces work in the shadows, and Leia warns her brother that she senses something dark in her son, fearful that whatever her father had, Anakin Skywalker, could live on in her son. Luke assures her that he will be fine. He will train Ben the same way he has with Grogu. He will become a strong and powerful Jedi who will use the Force for good, not evil. But across the galaxy on the Sith planet of Exegol, the Emperor lives. And at a very young age, Palpatine began planting the seeds of darkness inside of Ben Solo's head. And that darkness will grow bigger and bigger over the years to come. But there is something far more important happening right now in the galaxy. As we cut to Tatooine, as Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, and the others now have full control over Mos Espa. And although business seems to be booming, Boba has heard the murmurs. Word has got around that Grand Admiral Thrawn is heading straight towards Tatooine. The Empire is coming, and Boba knows he can't stop it. So instead of losing a fight he can't win, Boba gathers his closest allies, Fennec Shand, Cobb Vanth, and the others, and escapes the planet, going to call upon his old friend yet again for help. They travel to Mandalore, and when they arrive, Bo Katan and Din Djarin have no idea what they are talking about. They've been too busy trying to rebuild their own home planet that they've been unaware of what's going on across the galaxy. The heir to the Empire is coming, and he needs to be stopped, because not only will Tatooine fall, but Mandalore will fall shortly after. And after just reclaiming their home planet a few months ago, Din and Bo are not going to stand idly by while it gets taken by yet another empire. But even with Boba Fett, Din Djarin, Fennec Shand, Bo Katan, Cobb Vanth, and the other Mandalorians, that still won't be nearly enough to stop Thrawn's army of stormtroopers and Night Sisters. They're gonna need a lot more help. So Din gets in his N1 starfighter and blasts off into hyperspace. He arrives at the Adelphi station. There he finds his old contact with the New Republic, Carson Teva, and Din begs him for help. Knowing that the New Republic will likely say no, as they can barely take care of their own core planets, Carson tells Din that the New Republic can't help him, but he knows who can, as he calls in a hologram of Heir Syndulla, now a general in the New Republic, but still the pilot of the Ghost and a rebel at heart. Hera knows more than anyone else in the galaxy how powerful Grand Admiral Thrawn really is, and of course she will do anything possible to help. So she gathers her new Ghost crew, with Chopper, Ezra Bridger, and her son, Jacen Syndulla. Jacen, the son of Kanan Jarrus, is now learning to wield the Force, learning from his father, Kanan's apprentice, Ezra Bridger. So Din Djarin returns to Mandalore with a few X-Wings and the Ghost at his side. Not the army he thought he would be returning with, but help nonetheless. On Mandalore, we see Din, Bo Katan, Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, Heir Syndulla, Cobb Vanth, Carson Teva, and others standing around a holographic display, showing the planets that have fallen to Thrawn's forces. Thrawn's advance has been swift and merciless, but the galaxy's heroes rally once more. But they know, looking at this hologram in front of them, that they are outmatched by the Admiral's flawless strategy and his army of Night Sisters. The group discuss a desperate plan to stop Thrawn by striking his fleet's core, thinking maybe if they can hit him where it hurts, it will be enough for the New Republic to take the rest of the army down. We cut to the space above Dathomir, the Ghost leading the charge as the Slave 1, N1 starfighter, and Mandalorian ships follow. They're trying to take down this heir to the Empire, starting with his home base. Knowing that Thrawn is not here, this surprise attack could be the blow that could save the galaxy. As our heroes blast their way to the surface, the ground assault begins. However, they struggle to hold their line against Thrawn's overwhelming forces. Night Sister magic, even with Ezra Bridger and a young Jacen Syndulla, is overpowering our heroes. And as they're trying to make their final push, a familiar Star Destroyer comes out of hyperspace. The Chimera, Thrawn's flagship. The Grand Admiral has arrived. And at the darkest moment, as all seems to be lost, a familiar X-Wing comes out of hyperspace, as we see Luke Skywalker in the cockpit with Grogu sitting beside him. Because where there is darkness, there is also light to meet it. Luke Skywalker, the supposed last Jedi, and Grogu, his now trained apprentice, arrive to tip the scales. Luke's X-Wing weaves through the chaos, destroying key Imperial ships with precision. As they land on the ground, Luke and Grogu leap from the ship, igniting lightsabers. These two are the hope that the heroes needed, the reinforcements to push through and hit Thrawn where it hurts the most. We cut to Thrawn on the bridge of his Chimera, knowing that he has been defeated, seeing his forces on the ground destroyed. With the Force as their ally, Luke and Grogu turned the tides, but the victory comes at a price. The battle is won, but Thrawn retreats, his plan now only delayed, as his goal was not to take over the entire galaxy just to rule it. His goal was to protect the galaxy, protect his people. So he takes what he has left and goes into hiding, to protect himself and his people from a threat that he knows grows in the darkness, a far bigger threat than Grand Admiral Thrawn would ever be. But our heroes are still oblivious to it. As we cut to years later, we see Ben Solo meditating, a war in his mind between darkness and light, as Palpatine, using Snoke as a puppet, has been messing with his mind, pulling him further and further to the darkness. But Luke Skywalker watches from afar, now a lot older and wiser. Luke senses the darkness growing in his nephew. He sits with Grogu, who now looks a little older, but still like a child, as they watch Ben Solo meditate with curiosity. As the galaxy regains its footing, still recovering from Thrawn's attempt to take over the galaxy as the heir to the Empire, Luke has begun to train a new generation of young Jedi. Among them, the young Ben Solo that sits in front of them, whose connection to the Force has become very powerful. And now, more than ever, Luke senses what his sister warned him about all those years ago. But Luke saved his father. Luke brought the most evil being in the galaxy, Darth Vader, back to the light. He still believes that he can do the same with his nephew. But Luke doesn't know what forces work against him. Despite Luke and Grogu's best efforts, Ben Solo's fall seems inevitable. He's been manipulated by the dark side, by Palpatine, since he was a child, and this darkness runs far deeper than they ever could have imagined. But in this reality, Luke has help, as Grogu is still by his side. So when Ben Solo falls, Despite their best efforts, Ben, now Kylo Ren, stands before Luke and Grogu. He has joined the Knights of Ren, and they are here to destroy Luke's Jedi Temple. And as Luke and Grogu fight Kylo and the Knights of Ren, in this reality, Kylo does not win. The power of Luke and Grogu is too much. They easily slice down the Knights of Ren, and although Kylo Ren may be a Skywalker, although he may be very powerful with the Force, he is no match for the power of Grogu and Luke together. And though they are able to stop Kylo Ren, Luke is not able to strike down his nephew, as it is not the Jedi way. But in this moment of weakness, Kylo Ren does not hold back. Using the Force, Kylo Ren lifts Luke Skywalker into the air, Force choking him, leading Grogu to make the difficult decision, using his green lightsaber once wielded by Grand Master Yoda to impale Kylo Ren, killing Luke's nephew. Luke holds his nephew in his arms as he dies, crying as he feels it is his fault. He should have been able to stop this, but he couldn't. And although this seems like a win, the bad guys have been extinguished. Both Luke and Grogu know that the darkness has not been fully defeated. The First Order is rising in secret. Snoke still alive, Palpatine on Exegol, and the whispers of the Emperor's return grow louder and louder with each passing day. As we cut to Jakku, Palpatine's granddaughter, now the key to Palpatine's plan, is just a scavenger. But without Kylo Ren, her Force dyad, will she fall to the dark side? Across the galaxy on the Sith planet of Exegol, Palpatine's army continues to grow. The former Emperor just biding his time, waiting for the perfect time for his return. The battle may be won yet again, but the war is far from over. But will Luke, Grogu, and the other Jedi at his temple be strong enough to stop what's coming?